Yeah, if fast food could be a dessert, that's what this is.
It's phenomenal. Melted cheese. I hope you're eating now too, Justin.
It's so good. All right, go ahead. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny? Now you know how you're seeing behind the curtain.
So dumb to watch.
It's stupid to watch, but you see, when we cut it out, no one knows.
Oh, man.
Let Hooper take a turn.
Greetings and salutations, good people. It is the HooperCast, episode 91, Dustin.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's legit.
It is legit. You know what else is legit? These stupid fries.
They sound delicious. Hooper was just telling me about these fries that he got, and oh my gosh, you guys. Tell him about it. Tell him about it.
It's like this big plate of fries that's, what are the ingredients? Like honey mustard.
It's frozen fries.
Get up on the mic.
Watch you.
Copy it for, well,
Here, hold on.
this is great radio. We're rolling now, just so you know.
I realized that after
okay.
you did the whole clap thing and I made fun of you.
Yep, that's you who did.
There you go.
Okay, this is from a place, by the way, in Mobile called Babe's Hot Dogs. And it's French fries, chicken breast, bell pepper, onion, cheddar cheese sauce, honey mustard, buffalo sauce, ranch, and salt and pepper. And I told Dustin if fast food could be dessert or salad, that's what this is.
It sounds so good.
It's delicious, but this is gonna destroy my insides.
It's worth it.
Probably.
Just think about what your tongue feels.
I'm always thinking about that.
He doesn't want to think about how his stomach feels later, though.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty weak receiver of stomach aches.
Yeah.
But enough about me receiving. Let's talk about some movies. We saw some stuff recently. That was stupid to say. Hey, so anyway, I watched a little movie called The Judge on HBO Go yesterday, and I recorded a voice memo to get my thoughts together, and then I just started rambling and I reviewed the entire thing. So instead of repeating that again here today, I'm just going to play the review for you guys, and Dustin's already listened to it, so I'm just going to take a little ignore the bugs and stuff. I was on a roof, and they started getting louder. So anyway, here's my review of The Judge. So The Judge is a movie about a lawyer, a very successful lawyer played by Robert Downey Jr., who goes back to his hometown in rural Indiana to bury his mom, who's just passed away, and meets up with his brothers and his father there, all of whom he's estranged from, but especially his father, who is a judge, a court judge, played by Robert Duvall, and Robert Downey Jr. ends up staying to be his father's attorney in his defense against a hit-and-run charge. And throughout the film, there's perhaps some family drama and other things that ensue, to make a long story short. I'm starting to see a lot of Robert Downey Jr., and so I'm starting to see a lot of his familiar acting tics. I'm starting to see a lot of just visual repeats of characters he plays before. I'm starting to sort of realize, like I always knew this, but I'm starting to kind of realize that Robert Downey Jr. is, a character actor. He's, and that character is the verbose asshole. Whereas, I used to get the same feeling with Johnny Depp. Like, I see a lot of his same little tics and smirks and little weird little things he does with all of his characters, but I think Johnny Depp has a lot more range as an actor if he would just pick good movies. But regardless, that being said, I would watch this movie again, if not just for the performances of the two leads, of Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall. I found their extremely angry and strained relationship and the subtleties of it incredibly interesting to watch. And emotionally, for Robert Downey Jr., I saw him hit beats here that I hadn't seen out of him before as an actor. So I'm very impressed by his performance in this movie. The intricacies and the subtleties of a guy who's built up this giant defense mechanism, and based on how he was treated by his dad growing up, and to see his dad who's going through who seems completely unconcerned that he's on deck for being charged with murder, and refuses to essentially fully cooperate with the guy who's going to keep him out of prison, who happens to be his son. There are a lot of weaknesses with this movie. A lot of critics said the plot was a little formulaic. I guess. I mean, formulaic doesn't bother me if what's on screen is interesting. So the performances were interesting enough, the actors were interesting enough that I didn't really care about the formula. I was invested in the outcome of the trial. Courtroom dramas are always great to watch. I love watching them. And so while their formula might be a tad predictable, I still found it to be, refreshing and new. Even though maybe we're used to the courtroom drama formula. I don't know what people expect courtroom dramas ought to do, because then we'd just be changing the formula for the sake of subverting expectations. But if someone wants to do that, then go for it. I'm sure it'd make an interesting movie. I'm not knocking that idea at all, but I personally love courtroom dramas as they are, and I liked this family drama within it. And intertwined with it. I thought the dynamics were interesting. I wasn't too impressed with the supporting cast. Vincent D'Onofrio, Vera Farmiga, and I can't remember the actor's name right now, but the guy who plays Robert Downey Jr.'s other brother, who's the youngest of all of them, is autistic. And I liked that guy, but I mean, mostly all of my interest and all of the story's interest really is on Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall, which is fine. It's just some people were upset by the lack of character development for the other characters, and I would have liked maybe a little bit more between Robert Downey Jr. and Vincent D'Onofrio, because they set up in the film that Robert Downey Jr. essentially ruined his older brother's life, because he was a screw-up, and he was like, I don't know, they were in a car one night, and Vincent D'Onofrio was like a really good baseball player, like an all-star player. He had a bright future ahead of him as a professional player, and then because of Robert Downey Jr. being high while driving, they got in a big car accident, and it screwed up his brother's hand, and it ruined his career. It ruined his chances of a potentially lucrative and fulfilling career as a baseball player, and now he's still in that small town, runs a tire shop, and there wasn't much, I didn't see much in terms of that story. There wasn't much blame that was thrown at Robert Downey Jr. for that. Most of that guilt was put upon him by the father rather than the brother, but I would have liked to see a little bit more exploration of that between the two brothers. But I don't know. I don't want to dive too much into that specific story point, because it's in there, but it's really not a big focus of the film. But I don't know. Sometimes it's interesting to see movies where, because this is one of those films where it's like, oh, big shot guy comes in from Chicago, New York, or wherever he lives, Chicago, and goes to the small town where his roots are, and keeps making the calls back home saying, just a couple more days, this shouldn't take long. And then while he's in the small town, then he finds healing, or he finds himself once again, and he comes back a changed man. And many family dramas, many family issues are healed over this one magical weekend because of the understanding of bringing the family together. I understand, so I kind of was glad that there wasn't rapid rapid and dramatic change in the characters. There was enough. I don't know. It was just believable, and so I don't know what I'm more bothered by, like the lack of closure between the lack of the degree of closure that was presented in the film, or if they'd gone completely the other way and had everyone be best friends at the end. I think it was a satisfying amount of closure for the characters, and it kind of left me wanting more, and it made me want to watch it again because there's a lot of subtlety. So maybe it's just because they don't spoon-feed it to you. But I thought The Judge was an incredibly solid film. I think the budget was around $50 million. It made around $80 million. It's got like a 47 on Rotten Tomatoes. So it wasn't particularly well received, but I think it's a solid movie. It's a solid movie for Robert Downey Jr. It's a solid movie for him and his wife Susan's production company, Team Downey, which was one of the companies that produced the film. And I think it's a successful film for Robert Duvall. I really did enjoy this movie, more than I think I thought I did when I finished it last night. But the more I talk about it, the more I'm finding little things in it that are of value. And I think that I just think it's worth seeing. It's on HBO Go right now. You can also probably still find it in Redbox or go rent it at a library or on iTunes. I wouldn't really pay. I mean, if you don't have HBO, I wouldn't rent it on iTunes. It's probably too expensive. I'd go find a Redbox or a library. I don't know what town you're listening to this in, but at least in my town, if you got a library card, you can rent movies for 75 cents and keep them for a week. So I wouldn't spend much more than that on this unless you're really a fan of Robert Downey Jr. and you're predisposed to responding well to his movies. But I'd say find a way to watch it because I think it'll be worth your while. It's a little long, but I don't necessarily think that it was over long. But it's over 2 hours. It's like 2:20. It's like a, Judd Apatow length. But the difference there is that Judd Apatow's movies are comedies, not mainly, but they're at least 50% comedy. So, those kind of movies drag out and get boring if they're too long. Whereas this is a drama, so I didn't necessarily expect it wouldn't have worked as a 90-minute movie. So anyway, check out The Judge. I enjoyed it, and I would probably watch it again, like I said, if not just for the performances and watching the two leads really interact. And they were very watchable, I thought. Anyway, that's The Judge. So those are my thoughts on that. Dustin, you did not see this film, right?
No, I didn't. It's one that I wanted to see. I remember seeing like the previews and TV spots and stuff for it, and thinking I should see that. I just never have gotten around to it. In your review, you mentioned that it was maybe a little formulaic, but you didn't mind the formula. My question for you is this: I feel like there's a difference between formulaic and like predictably boring. Yeah. Did you find it predictable? Like everything was telegraphed and you kind of knew, or it was just formulaic in just its 3-act structure and kind of way that it works? Does that make sense?
Maybe it's formulaic, and to me, I don't see formula as a bad thing. I think people say,
no,
I know this story structure, and it's like, well, yeah, most stories have
because it works.
Yeah, exactly, because that's how we like to experience a story. So perhaps the story of an estranged father-son relationship improving somewhat is familiar to people, and perhaps the concept of a courtroom drama where you're defending someone against a murder charge is familiar to people. But one of the things that isn't is the two of those at the same time, which is a little bit of a dumb defense, I mean, admittedly, but I enjoy things I haven't seen before, and while it's not wildly different from anything I've seen, it's a movie about a family drama, and it's also courtroom, and I didn't find it predictable because, I mean, I knew it wasn't. Here's why it wasn't boring. I think I mentioned this in the review, but I'm okay with formula when how you're presenting it is different, and this setting was different enough for me, and the two leads were so dynamic to watch that if that's good and like if that is interesting enough to watch, then you're not going to you're not going to focus on the structure. It's just like any movie. Like, Dustin, you and I nitpicked about The Amazing Spider-Man, right? Well, no,
Sure.
we didn't. I mean, I think that we
tore it apart.
We tore it apart. But one of the reasons we did is because you not only when the story's bad, but even a different movie when the story is just boring, you're not going to focus on the story. You're going to focus on, you and I at least will focus on structure. Because you'll start to say, okay, I've decided that the story is not interesting. What else is redeeming about this film? Is it the writing? Oh, maybe not. Is it this or this? Oh, I don't like that shot. You just start finding things.
Exactly.
It's human nature to find flaws anywhere because we're never satisfied. So, yes, I'm always going to have something to say about a film, and this isn't a perfect film. But I thought that, to answer your question roundabout, it was not... I didn't find it predictably boring. I found it familiarly watchable.
I gotcha. See, my reference point for stuff like this is always Firefly, because
which Tara won't watch with me.
No, well, you should.
So
it's a Western, right? Yeah. It's a science fiction, and it has those like archetypes and those like landmarks of those genres, and it merges them together in a way. So it doesn't really show you anything interesting, but the combination of two things that you enjoy separately kind of works to create something new. Or it's the Reese's effect, right? Chocolate and peanut butter, both great. Put them together, you get something new and cool. So if The Judge is a family drama and a courtroom drama, which both can be enjoyed separately, when you put them together, they should at least be entertaining to watch together.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Like I said, the most boring element of it was one aspect of Robert Downey Jr., which is seeing this movie was the point where I sort of decided that I've essentially come to peace with I'm not going to get much range out of him in terms of the kinds of characters he plays. Sure. It's like I said, he plays the verbose asshole, and he plays it very well. Yeah, and that's really the reason I want to see him. And he's a good actor and capable of much emotional subtlety, but I don't see him playing a wide range of characters. I see him.
Do you feel like that's also like a product of the fact that that's the offers that he's getting mostly?
I think that. I mean, I know that him and his wife chose this movie to produce, and so. I'm not sure what went into him being in it necessarily, but I think that's the kind of offers he's getting, and and it's fine. I'm fine with it, and so this movie could have been him phoning in, kind of like Due Date, where he's essentially playing another version of him.
Sure.
And it's okay. I mean, it's passable. Whereas here, I mean, there's one scene during like during basically a tornado, and where him and his dad get into it, and that was an amazing scene. And it's just I hadn't seen quite that. If you were to rank, emotional moments in an argument, I just hadn't seen him quite reach that level before. It's like to continue to compare him to Johnny Depp. It's kind of like in Public Enemies. I think it's the first time I saw Johnny Depp cry in a movie. And for a while, I was like, this guy's a great actor, but I've never seen him like lose it and just start like weeping. And he didn't like full on, Julianne Moore cry, but he, I was like, oh, he's still surprising me. And that's what Robert Downey Jr. is doing. He's still surprising me just within a narrower body of work or field of work than someone like Johnny Depp. And again, I hate to compare him negatively. That's not really what I'm doing.
You're just, you're just looking at two actors and their choices and styles.
Yeah, both actors who I respect, and like I said, Downey Jr. is making smarter choices than Johnny Depp. But hey, when Black Mass comes out, we'll see if that holds true because that looks awesome.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, that's all I really got to say about The Judge.
I'm going to try to check that one out because I do want to watch that. I love Robert Duvall, and I like Robert Downey Jr. a lot. So yeah, I'll check it out.
And Robert Duvall was the second choice for that role. It was supposed to be Jack Nicholson, which would have been interesting because he would have been pulled out of retirement to do that movie.
Yeah,
I think that might have been his reason was I'm retired.
Is he officially retired?
Man, I don't know. I feel like everyone's officially retired, and then they just
I know, right? Speaking of that, I heard, this is off topic, but Steven Spielberg is trying to pull Gene Wilder out of retirement for his next movie.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
I would too. I love Gene Wilder.
Yeah. Dustin, you saw a film or two recently.
Yeah, I've got a couple to talk about.
I've not heard of either of these, by the way.
Okay. So, we will start with the older film. It's called Maidentrip. It was first released in 2013, and it's available on Netflix. So, Maidentrip is the story of a 14-year-old girl named Laura Decker who decides to pursue her dream of traveling around the world by boat by herself at 14. And if she completes this journey, would be the youngest person ever to sail around the world by herself. And so the documentary, there's a little bit of like growing up kind of stuff, like photographs and home movies and stuff like that. But the majority of the film is shot by her, like using a handy cam or whatever on her boat. So it's just her in the middle of the ocean, no film crew or anything. It's just her. And then when she stops off, like in different like port cities and whatnot to, get supplies and whatever to rest, she will meet with the film crew at that point, and they'll follow her around. But I would say a majority of the film takes place just she's filming it and she's filming herself. So. This is a true story. Obviously, it's a documentary. And spoiler alert, I don't think it's really that much of a spoiler. I mean, you could Google it. She does complete her journey, and it's just super, like, emotional to her to have that title, the youngest person to ever sail around the world. And as the audience, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about documentaries because I'm not super familiar with, watching them and being able to dissect and pick out different
how you
things
pick a
about
good
them.
one, basically.
Yeah, because there's so many, there's so much variation in style, and I feel like as long as it's interesting material, then everything else kind of doesn't matter, which is sort of the opposite of like a narrative film where if it's interesting material, I mean, that's like the base nugget. Everything else still has to work and still has to fall into these like preconceived notions of how a film should be. And sometimes even a film without a good idea or a good story at all can still be entertaining. And I feel like a documentary without a good story or without a good idea can't be that.
Well, it depends on which kind, because I'm if it's about a person. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, I haven't seen this, but what's its name? What was that one from last year or 2 years ago? It was about the musician. Oh, crap.
Sure.
Well, that's I should have said that. Anyway, searching for, what's his name? Searching for something man. The search for, searching for Sugar Man. Oh, who cares? Look, it was, it's basically just about this old musician who's kind of been performing. I think he's been performing under different names. He was famous way back when, and he's just performing under different stage names these days, and blah, blah, blah. It seemed like a passion project about this dude. I have zero interest in that because I'm not interested in that guy's story because what he does doesn't interest me. But you could do a fair to middling job of executing a movie about vegetarians, and I'd still probably come out thinking, I'm glad I watched that, because for me, documentaries, what I get out of them is education.
Sure.
Unless the subject that they're about is, the person that they're about is someone I'm already familiar with and wanted to know more about, or an event that I wanted to know more about. But sure. I tend to, so for me, documentaries, the informational ones can almost do no wrong, because even if it wasn't executed that great, you probably still learned something, and so you don't feel like you wasted your time. So I think that's a clear distinction that should be made with documentaries.
Sure.
That's how I judge them, at least. Was this a waste of my time?
Yeah. And I don't think this is a waste of anybody's time. It's only 82 minutes long. I mean, you can get through this really quickly. Like I said, it's not like it's dragging or anything, any particular point. I will say, she's a 14-year-old girl, and she has, for all of her maturity and, tenacity for, attempting something like this, she's still a 14-year-old girl, and she still does things that seem immature or whatever. So it depends, I guess, a little bit on your tolerance of, those sorts of behaviors. For instance,
does she sleep late on Saturdays?
Yeah. Except when she's in a storm and then she's going to die. There's like a part where her dad comes to visit her in one of the port cities he flies in. And obviously there's, that childhood part of her that's still like, Dad, I'm glad you're here. But then there's that teenager part that's like, nah, I don't have to listen to you. I'm sailing around the world, I think I'm, what I mean?
Don't listen to which part. The part where it's like, this is super dangerous. And by the way, why am I letting you do this?
Yeah, exactly. You have to understand that I'm an idiot for letting you do this by yourself. Because what if she's sailing around the world. Like, she's going to go through, like, the South Africa, like, pirate area.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Yeah, a female traveling alone.
Yeah, in a little boat.
Like, an adolescent female traveling alone in a little boat.
Exactly. Anything could happen. That's
Stay away from Somalia.
I know, right? Oh, my gosh. Captain Phillips up
We
there.
have an unarmed freighter. Look at me. I am the captain now.
Look at me.
This is my documentary now.
I've hijacked it. Look, so Maidentrip doesn't waste your time. It's a short film, and it's not a short film. It's a not long film. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, and I think it's just an interesting story to see, even though you kind of will know very quickly that she does end up completing it. It's still just watching her do that I think is interesting, and to see the different things that you have to go through, whether it be storms or like, how am I going to get through this giant like channel, stuff like that, just navigation and that kind of thing is interesting to me just at its base. So for me, this was an interesting film. My girlfriend said it was like one of those movies where and I think this is true, one of those movies where at the end of it, you're like, I haven't done anything with my life. Like, this girl's 14 and she's sailing around the world. It's one of those kind of things. But
it makes me even madder at kids on like Xboxes and stuff. Like,
I know, right? It's like, it makes me go, you're 16. Stop playing Call of Duty. Go sail around the world, you jerk.
Although he'd probably say, hey man, I'm not going anywhere. There's pirates out there.
Right, and then I'd say, oh yeah, you're right. True. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point. Yeah, don't go sail around the world, kids.
Dustin, just a quick sidebar. You didn't hear me fart just now, did you?
I did not.
Oh man,
was it?
You were in the middle of like a point, so I didn't want. It just sort of slipped out.
Oh no!
It's like I was like. Tara fell over onto the bed. I was like, cover your face. I had to plug my nose so you wouldn't hear me laughing, and I was trying not to ruin your point. I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not hear that. I wished I'd heard it.
Do you remember like 3 years ago or 4 years ago when I did that? Like one of the first episodes we did?
Yeah. Didn't you amplify it?
I did.
So that the audience could hear it?
I did. I turned the volume all the way up.
Do that again.
Huh?
Do that again. I want to listen to this episode and hear it.
You want to hear it?
And hear exactly when it was.
All right, hang on. Let me make a show note to max out the gain when I fart in the middle of your point. Like, that's a pretty good document. And
everybody listening will be like, "Was that a fart?" Or wow.
I'll try to strike a good balance so that people are still listening to you, but. See, I didn't interrupt you, Dustin, but I did fart.
No, I just kept on going.
Oh, man.
I had no idea.
I was looking at it. I didn't see a waveform, so I thought I got away with it.
Right. Yeah, no, I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry, Dustin. I completely I derailed your.
No, man, I was done. I'm good.
Okay.
Let me see if Maidentrip is listed on Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes. So, would you recommend it though? I mean, you said it's not. It's short enough to where it's probably not a time waster.
Right, yeah, it's short. It's not going to waste your time. If you have an evening where you're just like, I want to watch something, this isn't a bad way to spend it. It's got an 82 on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's pretty good.
22 reviews counted, so not a lot of talk about it. Yeah, but yeah, it's got an 82. It's interesting.
Yeah,
it's definitely interesting.
Cool.
So yeah, I would recommend it if you're just looking for something to kill some time.
Now, is Max a documentary too?
No, it's not. It's a narrative feature film. It was released in theaters. It did not stay there long. Let me pull up the totals.
Great radio when Dustin types and no one talks. Great radio when Dustin talks and no one types. Or shit.
When Dustin types and no one talks.
Yeah, thank you. It's not live, but I'm trying to minimize the amount of post production I do, so I can spend more time with my family.
I think he found it.
He would have spoken if he found it. You're trying to butt into me and Dustin's working relationship here.
He's very silent.
It's because he's reading, right, Dustin?
Yes, I got it. Okay,
I know what he's doing.
Here we are. Okay, so Max was released on June 26th, and I saw it when it came out in theaters just because of one reason. And that reason is it's a movie. Well, let me tell you what the movie's about. Okay, so the movie is about a dog who works with the Marines, and he's deployed overseas in Afghanistan. And when his handler is killed in battle, he gets shipped back to the States. And they're going to put him down because he has essentially the dog version of post-traumatic stress disorder and can't,
follow orders,
perform anymore.
Yeah.
So they're going to put him down. So the handler had a little brother who decides to take in this dog and be like, I'll be your new person, dog. And we're going to learn life lessons together. And overcome dog stress, and that's the thing. So I was like, hey, this dog is a German Shepherd, and I was even wrong because it's not. It's a Belgian Shepherd called a Malinois, but it's very close to a German.
So
Shepherd.
Racist, Dustin. You just assumed he was German.
I can't. I'm like, this is a German dog, and they're like, no, it's Belgian, and I'm like, same thing. They all look the same.
Yeah. I mean, they all speak the same. There's subtleties in the dog accent, though.
Same dumb accent.
Yeah.
Why can't you just be an American Shepherd?
Yeah.
That's the real way. Is American Shepherd.
American Shepherd. What's the brother's deal? Like he must have some weird character flaw to overcome too. How does the dog help him?
You mean the main character, the little brother?
Yeah.
The little brother is like a loner and like, hey, I'm a young teenager and I don't like anything, and I live in Texas and I hate Texas, and my dad's a jerk to me because he prefers my hero older brother, and my mom doesn't do anything in the movie, and I've got friends and they're I don't know. Yeah, that's about it.
How old's this kid?
Like 13, 14, I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like a military aged kid, but this is like a precocious young preteen.
Yeah. So his brother,
angsty
like
preteen.
the dog's handler, was a young man in the military, and so this is his younger brother who's the protagonist of the film, and
Gotcha.
And so so here's what I'll say about Max. Right, so its production budget was $20 million, ended up making $41 million domestically. It has no foreign gross at all, so I guess it had no release outside of the States, which makes sense. It's a very American movie. It's directed by Boaz Yakin, I guess is how you say his name, the dude that did Remember the Titans and Uptown Girls and Safe, and I think he wrote Prince of Persia and Now You See Me.
Oh, okay.
So the guy's worked. It's not like, this is like a nothing kind of a movie.
In the broad definition of the word, he's done films for money.
He does exist, and he has received money in exchange for filmmaking. The film stars, if you want to say stars, Thomas Hayden Church, Lauren Graham.
Is he the dog?
I wish. That would be the coolest movie ever. Dog with a mustache and being...
Yeah.
No, Thomas Hayden Church in this movie has this big, thick mustache, and he's playing a Texan, so he's all like, "Howdy, y'all. I love America, and my son died in the service."
Yeah.
And so the only other name of interest, I guess, is Robbie Amell, who
is that Arrow's brother?
It is. It is Arrow's brother.
It was Arrow, the guy who was killed?
His cousin. Yes. Yeah, the guy who was killed is Arrow's cousin. And he also, Robbie plays on The Flash. So it's a big family affair over there now.
I thought Robbie Amell was the little boy and Stephen Amell was the guy who got killed in action.
Oh, that would be cool, man.
That would have been insane.
That would have been really cool.
Because he's good looking. Like he would have died with like his shirt off though. Like you would have seen his abs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bomb would have blown off.
Steps
his
on an
shirt.
IUD,
Yeah,
or an IUD, not an IUD. That wouldn't kill you.
No, it wouldn't.
Hey guys, there's an IUD out here. That's weird.
Okay, so here's the deal with Max, right? So Max is an okay movie. It's in the style of like Old Yeller kind of a thing. We're gonna learn life lessons from our dog. But this thing is populated with not just like stereotypical characters, but I would say racist characters.
Oh.
So the main kid has two best friends. They're both Hispanic. And one of them's sole purpose, I guarantee you, like this kid probably had, he had a fair amount of lines. But I'm willing to bet that 75% of those lines, at minimum, had some reference to him being Hispanic in the line. Like he would just be like, "Hey man, I'm Hispanic, so I don't know how to go to this place." And you're like, that doesn't have anything to do with this.
Mexicans be all like guns and we don't want to shoot Afghans, and
that's
white
exactly
people be
right.
all like, let's go get guns and shoot Afghans, right?
Right. No, that's exactly the type of line that's in this film. So the main kid would be like, "You want to go ride bikes?" And he's like, "Well, I would love to, but my mom is making tacos because, we're Hispanic." And I'm like, that's not a line. Like, you've literally told me nothing. All you told me in that line is that he's Hispanic, and I already knew that.
Sounds like a mid-'90s George Lopez.
It is,
5
dude.
minutes.
That's exactly what it is. I bet George Lopez wrote all of his lines.
I bet George Lopez stole this. He's gonna take this movie and make it into his act.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And then so this kid's cousin is the other friend or whatever, and then so this guy's always like, "Hey, homie, why you falling from my Hispanic cousin when you a white boy?" And I'm like, man, this is painful.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it's just weird. And then of course this like 12, 13-year-old kid, Hispanic kid, has ties to the cartel. And I'm like, what? Oh. So, all right, so here's the plot of the movie. The plot is, right, that the dog comes back, the kid adopts the dog, but then it turns out his older brother, who got killed in Afghanistan, had a partner over there who was, in the military, but he was like a coward and like, a villain.
A deserter.
And he comes back and he's like, "Yeah, man, all I was doing was stealing weapons that we found over there and bringing them back to the States and selling them to the cartel." And I'm like, how are you getting these weapons from like a home in Afghanistan? You found them in like a hole in the wall, and then how do you get them from there to your barracks, and then from your barracks back home? That doesn't make any sense. And a lot of weapons, I don't
like
understand
one
how
handgun.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, if it was a handgun or like one thing, I got it.
One Luger from Nazi Germany, I understand.
Sure, but I have to imagine that the military is a little more strict on, hey, I'm walking through security with an RPG and a bunch of like assault rifles. I'm sure they're not going to be like, those are probably his.
Those are all
We're not
standard
going to
issue.
check.
This strange assortment of
we're not
guns.
going to check if those are the ones that he just reported that were found.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy obviously is in league with the cartel, and he wants to bring this kid down because of the dog. Like, I don't know, I guess he knows the dog knows that he deserted or something. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but he does everything in his power to make sure the dog gets put down and the kid has to fight the guy. And it ends up like one of those where the red fern grows kind of a deals where they're out in the woods and like chasing each other around like Tom and Huck or something. And they're in the woods and they end up on train tracks and you know, all the basic things. And Thomas Hayden Church has a mustache, and he's out there in the woods too. And it's all very stereotypical and all very boring. But I guess the point is, there's not much redeemable here. There's some bad CGI when dogs fight other dogs. There's like bad, like just general, like all the acting is awful. Lauren Graham, who is a good actress, she's known for Gilmore Girls and Parenthood. Here tries to do a Texan accent, but abandons it halfway through the film, either just because or because the director was like, look, you're not doing a good one, so just don't do it from here on out. So that's annoying. Basically, the film doesn't have really any redeemable qualities other than some really good dog acting. That's all I'm going to give it. Is the dog that plays Max did some really legit acting up in here. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't know how you got your dog to do that, but that's cool. And
so all the money went into the trainers.
Pretty much, yeah. And then they probably blew the rest of their budget on their bad CGI.
The DJ, the Dogs Guild of Acting.
Yes.
The
Dogs Guild.
The Dog Actors Guild. DAG.
Dog Actors Guild, yes. The DAG. Yeah, so, you know, look, it's not in theaters anymore, but it's going to be at Redbox soon. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. Like, you're going to look at the cover and be like, hey, it's a Marine German Shepherd. And you're going to be like, I like these things. I like America and dogs. But don't be fooled.
Instead, spend your dollar on the judge.
There you go. There's the great segue. Or save your dollar and watch Maidentrip for free on Netflix. In the meantime, I'll also I wanted to throw this out there before we sign off, Hooper, that Curb Your Enthusiasm is now on Amazon Prime. I'm going to be watching through that. And also, Harvey Birdman is now on Hulu Plus, and I'm going to be watching through that as well. So prepare for some reviews from that.
There we go. So John sent us a review of Trainwreck, which is still in theaters, and I think it's still in the top 5 of the box office, starring Amy Schumer and Bill Hader, directed by Judd Apatow. Pretty positively received, and so John went and saw it, and here is his thoughts.
All right. Here are my thoughts on Trainwreck. I was able to see this a couple weeks ago, and I got to say I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I like Judd Apatow's other movies. I like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up and some of his other work, and so I think he's a pretty competent director. And so I was interested in this going into it, and obviously Amy Schumer is huge right now, and I've checked out her show on Comedy Central a few times and listened to her stand-up, and so this was kind of a meeting of the minds of two people who are really big in terms of comedy, and I was a little skeptical about it because I know that Judd Apatow usually tends to kind of take his films into kind of unnecessary dramatic territory at times, and I was hoping that this wouldn't be bogged down by that. And but basically, the film centers on this woman in her early 30s named Amy, who is kind of just slogging through life. You know, she's not really taking anything seriously in life, and she's just kind of aimlessly going about sleeping with people and heavily drinking and all these sort of things. And she writes for a magazine, and she's given the story to write about this sports doctor who's played by Bill Hader. And he's kind of playing the straight man in this film, which was a nice change of pace. But basically, she starts to fall in love with him because he kind of represents everything that she's not. He's kind of stable. He's not particularly extroverted, and he's kind of like a breath of fresh air in terms of what she needs in her life. So And the film basically kind of deals with them kind of like clashing as they go through this relationship because she's very stuck in her ways, and he sees it as like self-destructive tendencies. And also you see her family, like she's constantly kind of being compared to her sister in the film, who has a husband and a child, and it kind of has her life together. And her dad, played by Colin Quinn, is dying of MS throughout the movie, and so there is a lot of emotion to this film, but I never felt like it went too far into the drama territory, like something like Funny People did, which was another one of Judd Apatow's movies. This one kind of hit the right notes that you want it to in terms of drama and comedy, but it was a very, very funny movie. It didn't run long. That was another thing that I was worried about going into this. Was usually Judd Apatow's movies tend to run a little bit long, and this one didn't seem that long-winded when compared to some of the other films. And I think it clocked in maybe just over 2 hours. If it was any longer, it didn't seem longer. But I think if I had a main critique of the movie, it was a little predictable. At the end of the movie, they kind of work through their issues to an extent and end up together. And you know how those movies are going to end going into it, but the same happened with Knocked Up and some of these other films that deal with similar subject matter. So you could see that coming, but the journey was not predictable. Although the end result, the end of the film, you could see coming. But it was very funny. There's a lot of cameos by famous sports stars, and because Bill Hader plays a sports doctor, so LeBron James is in the movie quite a bit, and he's very funny. And basically the way I look at it is, this is kind of a return to form for Judd Apatow. His last couple movies haven't really been big hits, and I think that he's kind of getting back into telling a good story, but focusing on the humor more than the kind of dramedy that I think people have gotten accustomed to from him. And I think that was the right choice, and especially going with Amy Schumer, who is, Amy Schumer's not your typical chick flick person, and so I think that this film skirted that title of being a chick flick or a date movie, and it really, because she helped write the movie, and because she came up with a lot of the story, and it's kind of loosely based on her, it really just makes it a funny movie, even though it has a lot of the kind of date movie elements of people meeting and falling in love, and it's a love story, but it's told in a unique way to where it never feels pandering or tacked on or cliche or any of those things that those films usually fall into. So, and one more thing about the cast is Bill Hader is someone who I've seen in a ton of movies. He's a really great character actor, very funny guy. And he played more of a dramatic part in this film. He did a really good job. He was very believable. He was kind of playing the straight guy to Amy Schumer's kind of more out there personality, and it worked really well. He did a great job. Hit all the emotional notes that you needed out of the character, and it was really kind of great to see him do something different. And also with Amy Schumer, this is her breakout role, obviously. She did a great job. Very funny, but also there are a lot of scenes where she has to deal with these hard emotional things. At one point in the movie, her father dies, and everything kind of collapses in on itself with her and her life, and she does a great job with the spectrum of emotions. So yeah, I think overall the film was solid. It was very funny. I wouldn't call it something like super bad or something like, I don't know, some of Judd Apatow's other films in terms of rewatchability. I wouldn't say this is a movie that I would watch over and over, but it was certainly worth the price of admission, and I'd be open to seeing it again, but I don't think it has quite the staying power of something like a Superbad or a Knocked Up for me. that being said, I think that obviously audiences really love this movie. It's doing really well, and I think it was kind of the breakout comedy of the summer, and the fact that it was able to be released along with these huge blockbuster movies and hold its own really says something about what audiences want out of a comedy movie these days. And it's great to see just a unique cast assembled for a movie that's not a stupid comedy. It's a smart comedy. It's a fun comedy. It's well written. And it actually has characters that go through arcs that change. And I think that Judd Apatow really kind of helped foster that aspect of it along. And Amy Schumer brought a lot of the comedy to it. So I think that was a perfect mixture. And I'd like to see them collaborate again. I think they have talked about maybe doing another film together. Not a sequel to Trainwreck, but another film. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, next week, I, for one, Dustin might too, am going to watch the Chris Farley documentary. I Am Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Just came out, and very interested in that movie. So that ought to be good.
What comes out this weekend, Hoop?
Oh, crap.
I got it pulled up.
What do you got? Anything interesting?
The three big ones are Hitman Agent 47, which currently is sitting at a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Lovely.
American Ultra, which stars Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart. And Sinister 2, which...
the one that was made for money.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's that Sinister 2, the one we made for money.
Yes. I've been seeing, we got a Telemundo router at work, and that thing is being promoted all over that channel. I'm sure it's being I'm sure they spent a lot on marketing this time around.
I'm sure they did,
so,
yeah.
I don't know. That movie was appropriately creepy. It feels like they're about to do like some Grudge stuff to it, where they're just gonna take that demon guy and just start just showing him more and have him scare more kids.
Yeah.
I'll say this real quick. Sinister does have sequel potential. It's all about a demon who possesses kids to kill their families. So it's not like it's a one-off. But it's one of those that has endless potential for sequels, and that's not good, in my opinion.
Sure.
So, kind of like Paranormal Activity. Like, it really... I mean, if you take that Katie girl out of it, you could make those for 30 years.
Sure,
so,
yeah. Totally.
The untapped potential is what I'm not cool with. But I won't say there was no need for a sequel, but
Gotcha.
I don't think it's going to be that great.
Right.
We'll see. Anyway.
Well,
all right, Dustin.
Man. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, and see you next week. And I will not be eating. Maybe I will be eating more of these stupid fries.
You never know. They may treat your stomach pretty well.
They probably won't.
Probably not, but they might.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
See you later.
All right.
Let Hooper take a turn. Hooper drives the boat, Chief.